This video is a viewer request and the topic is how to solve racism. Now, I have a disclaimer. I'm going to put it in the comments. Please check out that disclaimer before you watch this video or as you're watching it. But in any case, onto the main topic. Everything anything can be seen in the perspective of karma. The racism that you experience today isn't something that was just born out of the blue. The racism that you experience today is an accumulated cycle of hierarchies going back and back and forth, violent powers pushing this way, this way, this way, this way. That is how racism as a system got formed. Speaking from my personal experience, I am a Korean person. Therefore, I grew up, as with most Koreans do, with a fervent hatred of Japanese people. It's ingrained in our blood. But the thing is, from the Korean perspective, you have all the reasons to be anti-Japanese. And now, we, as Koreans who relatively recently got liberated from Japan, we have all this animosity that we pent up and that we attack Japan. And now, from Japan's perspective, though, this is what the Korean people have such a difficult time understanding because obviously they're coming from the Korean perspective. But from the Japanese perspective, here, like, Japanese government is wildly different from every single Japanese person. So not everybody is, like, on board with imperialism anyway. And then now, this country experiences a nuclear disaster twice. And now relinquishes the control over Asia, and now there they are trying to build their own country back, and then this country next to them keeps on attacking. Now, from the average Japanese person's experience, they don't really get why they get hated so much, especially because the Japanese government and the Board of Education censors information about the history of reality of what happened. And so many Japanese people, a certain generation of Japanese people, grew up with that wide gap in knowledge in recent world history about why Japan came to be this way. So from their perspective, Korean people are so racist. Korean people hate Japanese people. And now what happens as a result of that? They start forming hatred of Korean people. Because what did we do? From the perspective of modern Japanese people. And then when Korean people receive that, they get even angrier. And the cycle perpetuates. And I am relatively out of that now. But I understand, I look back in my life and I don't remember a moment as a child. Since I started having a memory, I don't remember a moment I thought of Japan in a fond way. So that's the power of not individual thing. It's an environmental cycle of karma that just repeats and repeats. And it always repeats because of eye for an eye, or if you push me, I push you back. And why that is, it's because it's the easiest solution to come back. It's the easiest response. I get slapped in the face. What's the easiest one? I repeat that back. Can I be patient and understand that this is a random attack and I am safe and I can let this go? I could, but is that hard? Yes. A much easier option is to slap right back. So, because this is easy and it doesn't really take any knowledge, but war is easy, combat is easy, fighting is easy because it's so natural, because it's part of our animal DNA. But as awakened people, as people who know better, as people who witnessed the terrors of war and violence, we can make a more informed decision about how to go, and that is basically peace. So now we have this system in which we have more or less global peace, more or less most of the areas in the world, but there are still people that kill each other. And now, while internationally, there may be there's lots of countries in the world who still have a lot of homogeneous demographic, where one demographic is a majority, right? And so while there are significantly less disputes about the international matters, racism goes much beyond that, right? Racism lives underneath the peace layer too. And there's so many forms of racism. There's stereotyping, and then there's like actively looking down on them, and then there's like class level segregations and such. I'm gonna tell you, I'm not well versed in all of that. But in any case, now we come to the Buddhist concept of how we incur karma in the first place. Karma is incurred by individual and environment. Both of those have to meet in order to generate karma. So, if you are completely dictated by your environment, so if you grew up in a poor environment where you're a racial minority, and you don't actively do anything that goes against the current of your environment, and you just accept your environment, then chances are you are just going to be the result of that environment. And you're going to be more or less like all the people from that same environment. You will be underprivileged. And you will repeat that underprivileged mindset, and you will continue to be, you will continue to live that cycle, and you will propagate that to your next generation. And now, if you live in an underprivileged, if you grew up from an underprivileged environment, but you went through exceptional efforts to not be limited by your environment, then you have a chance at having a different life. Because nothing's guaranteed, right? Just because I make this video, even though someone asked for it, just because I made it, doesn't mean people are gonna watch it. There's a chance that this is gonna be watched. So just like that, you have your underprivileged environment, but you have your exceptional drive and commitment to make your life something different, then you have a chance at making your life different. That's how karma gets incurred. And so, we have to understand that realistically, racism still lives in the world. White privilege exists in the world, and race-based classical hierarchies still exist in the world. Like, realistically, we have to acknowledge that as the beginning point. And now, what perpetuates this and keeps this going is you basically playing your part in the system. Talking about how everything unfair is. And at the same time, not doing anything to change it. There is a chance, very low percentage chance, that this video actually solves racism. Boom, and we're done with racism. Hooray! But chances are, it's not gonna work that way, right? But it's still a chance, and we have to understand that racism is a deeply rooted cyclical issue that has been accrued over generations, and it will take significant effort, and it will take significant time to undo the effects of that repeated cycle, because it does snowball. And now, for the individual, that's the environment. But now, what can the individual do to sort of fight that? There's multiple ways, right? There's activism. There's, lots of, like, this is pejoratively called, like, wokeism and social justice warrior or whatever. But the thing is, that kind of activism is needed. And that kind of angry energy is needed because a lot of the faces of racism is actually very ugly and actually does induce anger. If your wife gets spat on her face just because she's an Asian person, it is anger inducing. It's human to be anger induced. If your mom gets punched on the subway because she's an Asian, of course you should be angry. You could, because you're a human being. This transcends race. So that kind of outrage-based, activism has its place in the world. You can't say that that's meaningless and that's stupid. That's stupid from your perspective, but it has a place in the world. And now there's other types of things you can do as an individual. You can make a lot of money and you can donate to a lot of causes that solve this problem. But today I want to give you one concrete individual effort that you can do. And again, because I'm a life coach, I come to you from the life coaching angle. And it's that you stop seeing yourself as powerless. The thing is, the people who actually worry about this stuff, the majority of them tend to be the victims of racism. The people who benefit from racism hardly talk about this stuff, hardly think about this stuff, because if you really think about it, it isn't really their fault. Why would they think about it? If I'm rich and the government works for the rich, think about it. Why would I try to challenge that most of the time? Because it's easy for me to just accept things when things are good for me. It's hard to think about fairness when everything is going all good for me. It's easy to point out the problems when I'm actually going through the problems, right? So you have to understand the environment is tough for you. So, and again, you have to understand that your chance at tackling racism has a chance to work. It's not guaranteed to work. So if you think this is guaranteed to solve racism, you're going to be disappointed very often. And you will give up. I don't want you to do that. But now, understanding that you're most likely watching this video and you're actually thinking that you're coming from an underprivileged perspective, the mental exercise and the individual effort that you want to develop is that truly seeing yourself as a peer human in the world. Truly seeing your boss as another individual and me as an individual. Truly seeing your elected officials as another human being and not someone more powerful than you. Truly seeing all the white people and all the majority demographics. Don't let them rob your power here. They can rob your power economically, financially. They will try to take your power in, infrastructural things. But in here, you have to notice when you're succumbing to the power. You have to notice when you're becoming smaller that the more powerful person is trying to control my livelihood. You have to be free from racism first. And that's uncomfortable because the system makes you think you're powerless. You're born Asian. So of course I call you a chink. Of course you're a cook. And now I have to understand that if I react to that, I'm like, of course, yes. What was I thinking? I am a chink. That's succumbing, and that's reinforcing the system. But hearing that and being like, you know what? From your perspective, I guess you could say so. And if you want to, you can educate them, but don't let that word have a power on you. And now, it's not you who did something wrong when someone is being racist at you. But as soon as you take offense to it, it reinforces it. Because the fact of the matter is, the person who is being racist at you is the attacker, is the person who's doing the assault. You have to help them recognize that hey, you just did an action that is offensive. Now, I'm not completely sure that you're aware of that, but I want to understand, like, what makes you do that? Nine out of 10 times, it's unconscious. They don't even think about it. But again, because karma gets generated because of action reaction and the continual cycle of it, white people and other beneficiaries of racism also have a lot of woes. Just like the Japan example from before, they feel like they're just white and they get attacked for being white. And from their perspective, you have to understand that that's also what they experience. And now, when that is not listened to, and when that's not respected, and when that is like, shut up, you're a white person, so you don't have any say in anything, guess what? Racism is just gonna come back stronger. I guarantee it. Because, again, why? Because that's the easiest way. And like so many different things in nature, everything goes the path of least resistance. So if you want to be an awakened person who wants to continuously take shots at solving racism, come to terms with the actual environment that we're in when it comes to racism and explore all the individual things you can do. And in this video, I recommend connecting to your personal power that transcends race.